Okay, which prompt had we not dealt with yesterday? Thank you very much. So who's got A? Who was dealing with A? Good. Nice. All right, and Courtney. Excellent. All right, remind me, four-part structure. What four parts do we need? Oh, I love you people. That was so fast. Not only was it fast, but it was sort of chant-like, which makes me feel like I'm leading a cult, which has always been a dream of mine. So, yeah, just ignore me. Let's go on with this. Courtney? What was your idea? What were your two stories? Good. Nice. Okay, remind me quickly of the prompt. Actually, I've got the prompt here, and I'll read it. Compare and contrast two conflicts from two of the short stories from this unit. All right. Courtney, which conflicts are you focusing on? Because I think we could see multiple conflicts in each story. So which ones do you want to focus on? Okay. In both? Good. Person versus nature, person versus nature. And in Contents of a Dead Man's Pockets, it's Beneke versus gravity. In Powder, how did you figure it, Courtney? Okay, so the boy and his father are our protagonists. Boy, father versus snow. The prompt is asking you to compare and contrast. Which point have you done already? Very good. Which means something in the effect should be a contrast point, because you've already done the comparison. So, Courtney, did you have ideas on where you were going with the contrast point? How are they different? What about snow and the gravity? That's okay. Haven. True, although doesn't that seem to be a relatively superficial difference? I think we shouldn't focus on that. We should focus on something more significant. Jeremy. Right, but once again, it's kind of superficial. What is... let me back up. I'm going to try to figure this out without giving you the answer. Adriana.
Snow kind of comes and goes, and gravity's always there.
Okay, true. So one seems to be a more pervasive or serious force of nature than the other. That's correct. Although we're still on this track of just showing the differences between these two aspects of nature. We're not looking at nature, are we? What are we looking at? No. We're looking at a story. We're looking at a story. Are these two conflicts equal in their respective stories? And you're probably not sure what I mean by that. In other words, do they take central importance in each story? Is the person versus nature conflict here as important as it is here? Where is it more important, David? Perfect. David, how do you know that? But isn't the main conflict in Contents of a Dead Man's Pocket his internal conflict about what to do with work?
Yes, but the powder is just something that stalls them, yet contents that are fighting.
Oh, okay, so there are more serious consequences. Excellent. So that's true. We do have more serious consequences with Contents of a Dead Man's Pockets. Let me show you where I was going with it. Person versus nature here, important because it strings throughout the story. Finney develops that throughout the story. It happens early. and it carries most of the story and doesn't end until just about the end of the story. This one, it only comes in through about halfway and then to the end. It's not important. It doesn't start our story. It doesn't focus us on the most important conflict. How do we start? We start just like we did this yesterday. In. By the way, I will just shorten this to contents, but you should not. Keep going, Haven. And powder. Yes, indeed. You need similarity and difference in this one statement, right? Okay, so what do you want to start with? Aaron? I hate the verb compare. So let's use some other language to do the same idea. So Aaron, continue to use the verb compare. What were you going to say? Okay, you're getting there. It's a little awkward, but you've got the ideas in there. Now let's fine-tune them. Adriana, what were you thinking? There you go. That's the verb I like. What are they both developing? In Contents of Dead Man's Pocket and Powder, authors Finney and Wolf develop conflicts with nature, comma, not and, because we're looking now for the contrast point, right? So we need but or however. There you go. In Contents of a Dead Man's Pockets and Powder, authors Finney and Wolf develop conflicts with nature, but that conflict is more important in Finney's story than Wolf's. You don't like that?
But the conflict, like, I don't know, but that conflict is more important.
Well, that refers to the conflict I just discussed, which means the conflict with nature. That's okay. Haven, if you're not...
It's just like, it doesn't look fun for me. Like, it just feels like, but that conflict is more, like,
Would it be easier if it said this conflict, but this conflict?
No, it makes me specific on this conflict.
Right, but if... Go ahead, Jeremy. No, because then that seems to mean that his conflict is more important universally, outside the story and everywhere, but we're saying it's more important in the story. That's why I have in Finney's story. Okay, so in means I'm locating the importance in the story, but not outside of it. Amma. You can split if it's becoming overwhelmingly long. However, I'm trying to make sure that you folks can express complex ideas in one sentence that's pretty easy to understand. And I think this is a compound sentence, right? Two sentences joined into one. Compound sentences are fine. Compound sentences are acceptable. But if that complex sentence becomes way too complicated and wordy, then we'll want to cut it. I don't think we've reached that point yet, Amma. I think it's fine. All right. And enough of that. We will continue to talk about the development of the short essay